used to handle at one point in time $16 billion a year worth transactions. I was always thinking, what's my real passion, what I want to do in life, what gives me satisfaction. When I came back from US, people called me stupid. Now you want to get into farming, so that's another stupidity. Giving money, how difficult it would be.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Impact Shift series by Green Pistachio. Series where we sit down with people who officially traded the corporate treadmill for a meaningful, sustainability-driven path. We walk through their why, their how, and everything in between. The doubts, the surprises, and the small wins that keep them going. Our very first guest is Mr. Rahul Bakare, founder and CEO of Urdham Environmental Technologies. His work sits right at the intersection of innovation, impact, and water sustainability, making him the perfect person to kick off the Impact Shift series. Let's jump in.
And we'd absolutely love to hear and tell our viewers your story. So, over to you.
I'm Rahul Bakare, and I'm founder of Urdham Environmental Technologies Private Limited. We are a groundwater sustainability technology and products company based out of Pune, and we're in the business of reviving existing failed bore wells, open wells, so that we can make world habitable, at the same time increase farmer income. So actually, my journey began way back in 1995. I did my bachelor's in 1993 in mechanical engineering from University of Pune, and then I went to US as part of the rat race, and I worked in US for almost. I did my master's from there in Michigan, from Michigan State University. And did that, I realized that IT software has much longer, I would say, possibilities in US. So that's where I decided to move to software field. Over next 6-7 years in US, I worked there in software IT domain. Initially, I started with a startup, then went for a consulting company, and then lastly I worked at Bell Labs, which is a Fortune 500 company. Actually, when I had gone to US, I never wanted to stay there forever. I wanted to come back, and I came back in 2003-4. Actually, I was curious about the problems of farmers. I always used to wonder why farmers face problems when air is free, water is free, right? In some cases, electricity is free. But when I wanted to do farming, when I came back from US, people called me stupid. Coming from US, first of all, you came from US, that itself was the biggest stupidity, right? Second of all, now you want to get into farming, so that's another stupidity. So they said, no, don't get into there. First, acclimatize to the Indian context and then do it. I said, okay, that's fine. Okay, I'll acclimatize it. So I joined another startup company in Hyderabad, which was working in online gaming, and I was given an opportunity to head their online transaction processing, which is their cash flows and fund flows and everything. Used to handle at one point in time $16 billion a year worth transactions. So I was there for 6 years. But while working in that company also, I was always thinking, what's my real passion, what I want to do in life, what gives me satisfaction. So obviously software was not. So I decided to take a year off. I did my IIM Calcutta exec program, and that gave me some time to think that, okay, social development is my passion. Social development, environment related works is something which I wanted to do. So while I was thinking about this whole thing, I realized that water is one of the biggest problems. And actually, I had put my resume online, and Nandan Nilekani saw the resume. He called me for an interview. He and his wife had started a foundation called as Argyam Foundation in Bangalore, and they gave me an opportunity to head the foundation and its grant making portfolio. So I was thinking that, okay, so basically they had given a corpus of 150 crores, as a matter of fact, his wife, Rohini Nilekani, and the interest which used to come out of it, around 13 to 14 crores every year. Out of that, I was supposed to give 10 to 12 crore rupees worth grants to different NGOs across India in drinking water, domestic water, and sanitation. I was thinking that, okay, it's very easy. I'm like, giving money, how difficult it would be. But it proved to be very difficult, because the mandate which was given to me was that you have to go to the remotest parts of India where the government system don't reach, from where people are facing really tough challenges from domestic drinking water and sanitation perspective. You have to find the local NGOs who are working in there, work with them, understand the traditional water management systems there, build the capacities of the NGOs, and then basically make them implement something which is unique, positive, and new. And that gave me a tremendous exposure of what is Bharat, right? Earlier I was living in corporate and India, as a matter of fact, and I got an exposure to get into Bharat, and I had to unlearn a lot of stuff and learn tremendous amount of stuff, because in the corporate world 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. In social development 1 plus 1 is never ever 2. Either it is 3, it may be 5, it may be -1, it can be 0 as well. So that gave me a tremendous exposure. Every day of my life used to be very different. I used to meet people from politicians to IPS officers to IAS officers to film actors to directors like Shekhar Kapoor, you name it. And I have even met urban Naxalites, rural Naxalites in real life.
Wow.
And got to know a lot of stuff about how India works, the political economy of India, as a matter of fact, right? So when I was working at Argyam Foundation, before I had joined, most of the grants were given based on just philanthropic approach. I said, no, we also need to milk something out of it, right? As a matter of fact, and there's no strategy in it. We should bring strategy in it. So I basically developed 3 programs at Argyam Foundation. One was participatory groundwater management, where I was able to bring in 5 different NGOs working in different climatic, hydrogeological, geological territories all across India. One in Maharashtra, one in Run of Kutch, one in Himalayas, one in Ganga belt, and the last one was in down south, Andhra, Telangana, that kind of a terrain. And we were able to develop these 5 projects fantastically well, and we were able to generate tremendous amount of body of knowledge over 4-5 years, and we were able to push that knowledge into planning commission. And what we see right now as India's first pilot groundwater mapping program, because surface water, everything is planned, is basically mapped, right? But groundwater is not mapped in the Indian context. It was very difficult to map, right? So the pilot program worth 2,500 crore rupees was basically envisaged and basically funded by our efforts. We also worked on including science of groundwater hydrogeology in many of the water harvesting projects, like watershed, like Pistachio, like basically what we see right now as the Atal Bhujal Yojana was envisaged at that point in time, right? So we are also able to develop not only these programs, but we are also able to develop science-based groundwater bill, because India didn't have any law which would govern groundwater, and we were able to bring that bill so that most of the states now have accepted it into a law. So that was my basically contribution at Argyam Foundation. At Argyam Foundation, I also worked on 2 major other problem areas. One was arsenic, which is the water quality problem, groundwater quality problem, and fluoride. And we were able to develop national level basically policy advocacy kind of groups, which were able to meet, discuss about the problems which people are facing, and were able to develop certain approaches, certain basically advocacy material which was given at that time Planning Commission of India. So while working again in groundwater sector and in the NGO sector, I realized is that there is hardly anybody who is providing professional groundwater services to to people across India, right? If you want to have a new bore well, people are currently, even today, they are going to a diviner, a Nariyal wala, for example, right? And so while working at Argham Foundation, I realized that there is a huge market, but nobody is really working on it, right? And while working with the NGOs, I also realized is that in the NGO world, there is this saying that pilots never fail, but they never scale, because they are
Yes.
driven by the funding which is given by the donor.
Yes.
So the financial sustainability of those projects remains as long as the donor, right? So there is no independently self-sustaining kind of projects, as a matter of fact.
Which is one of
Uh,
probably the biggest problems in the development sector in India today because of CSR and because of corporates, donating. We look at everything to do with sustainability as a free
Correct.
or free of charge service. That's really, actually, I don't think any part of this was stupidity at all. It was just purely inspirational for us and anyone else who's watching. So thank you so much, Rahul, for sharing that story. So how many years did you work in the corporate sector, and now how many years has it been since you made the transition?
So since 97 to so 90, actually 93, I passed out. So I would say from 93, 94 onwards up to 2009, 10, I was in corporate. And in 2010, I left.
Question about this. I'm very, very curious. You know, what I do today is something that I've always wanted to do. I think right from the time that I was a child. And even then, I had to go through an entire detour of, professions and jobs to actually be able to get here. I want to know if there was ever like this trigger point, where in your corporate job, you just felt like, that's it, that's enough. I can't do this anymore.
So actually, almost every day when I was working in software, almost every day I used to feel, at the end of the day when I was to go to sleep, every day I used to say, am I happy? Am I, satisfied? And the answer used to be no, right? Um, and the thing is that it's my nature, is that basically, and it's again Maslow's law also, is that ghar ho gaya, bangla ho gaya, gaadi ho gaya, basic things are taken care of.
Self-actualization kahan hai?
Exactly. So what is next, right? इतना तो हो गया, so ये तो सभी करते हैं, right? And I always used to think bit differently than others. I never wanted to earn crores and crores of rupees, but be in the same shitty job day in day out, right? I said, okay, मेरा हो गया अभी, बस खत्म हो गया. I will now go for something which I like.
Okay, so next, what I would love to know is when you had that moment of a bus of nahi karna, did you sort of plan for what was coming, plan for what you were thinking of doing, or was it just, okay, let's see where this goes and free fall into it?
No, so actually, as I said, in my corporate career, I saw boom and bust of the company, right? At one point in time, there were more than 150 people who used to report to me, right? On the other side, I had to let go of 120 of them.
Wow.
So that was a kind of a moment of realization that was, you never know, you may be in the queue.
And this
right?
was in the span of like a couple of years, not even.
Exactly.
Since you've made the change, how has your definition of a good day at work changed?
So the good day earlier was, okay, मैंने stocks में कितना लगाया है, उसका आज क्या value है, आज मेरा ये project होना था, हो गया कि नहीं,
अपनी deal close कर ली.
Exactly, ये deal close कर दी, वो project खत्म किया, and all that, right? So at the end of it, I realized that, okay, I don't need to be a cockroach, right? Cockroaches have been in the world for much, much longer than humans are, right? They're still surviving, right? Do I want to survive or do I want to thrive? And do I want to thrive not just from physical things, but also psychological, mental, spiritual, those aspects as well, right? And that's where the वो घंटी बज गई कि बस अभी हो गया, let's move on.
So, speaking of education, how important do you think an education in this sector is for someone who's wanting to make a switch, of someone who's wanting to start out, or is it not important?
So I think it's always better to get educated. Baptism by fire, like I did, was it should not be the
Yeah, not
case.
everyone has that good fortune to be able to survive it, right?
Uh, so, so I think that certainly education has to be there. I think one should do a lot of introspection. One should write one's thoughts on a day-to-day basis. One should look at your bank balance. One should look at what are your expectations, current expectations from life, on a month-to-month basis, expenditure patterns. So there one has to watch all those things, learn what's out there. Because I have seen many people when I was working at our game also, and otherwise also, many people, they romanticize development world. Okay,
Yes.
and they come to development world and double the speed they go back to the corporate,
Yeah.
right? And uh, it's not that simple. People have to really think very hard, and and their decision affects their families. Their decisions affect their friends, families, surrounding. It affects their mentality, their mental toughness, and so many things it affects, right? Because you're in a sense, from the from the typical corporate guy's perspective, we are downgrading ourselves when we move from corporate to social development, right? So
I think, in a nutshell, I would say if you're creating impact and if you're doing it right, then there is nothing to stop you from growing in this, from scaling up in this sector, even, right?
absolutely, it will take time. You have
Yeah.
to be see. You have to be
Yes.
passionate. You have to have patience. You have to have perseverance. Obviously, you need to
100%.
perform, right? Unless you all these things, it's not easy in social development field.
Correct. So, if there was one thing that you could bring from your corporate life or from the corporate world into the sustainability sector, what do you think that would be? Which is not here, of course.
I think professionalism, overall, as a matter of fact, because what I have seen is that in the NGO field also, or in the social development field, there is a lot of चलता है, होगा, देखेंगे, अब बहुत टाइम है, करेंगे, सोचेंगे, yeah, I give them credit, at least have some long-term view about it. But we, as a country, we don't have long-term, basically, we don't have time on our
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
If we really want to become a developed country, we have to grow, obviously, but at the same time, we also need to work on so many problems which we are having, right? Because as I said, we are not an authoritarian country. Sometimes I believe that we should be. Something as simple as people don't have basic civic sense, right? So that kind of why we should, as a country, also we should say, okay, we talk about हमारी संस्कृति, हमारा ये, हमारा वो. I 100% agree with all that, but we also need to learn from what has made the Western countries or the countries like China, successful. Is their civic sense,
Yes.
right? Is their thinking beyond me, myself, family, my caste, maybe my religion, my state, to more of my country, right? And then maybe even Vasudhaiva
World. Yeah.
Kutumbakam.
Yeah. Just humanity, and even, in fact, other species as well. What's happening with stray
Correct.
dogs, or
Correct.
the way that we treat other species with disrespect. I mean, recently there was a leopard killed in one of the villages because a lot of the land that used to be forest land is now being used for agriculture. What is not being used for agriculture is now being developed into projects, where people are living. So we're basically encroaching on their homes, and then we're accusing them of encroaching our land and then killing them because we have the power to do that, and that's just so wrong on so many
See,
levels.
that's the anthropocentric worldview which we have cultivated.
Yes.
So actually, all these sorts of things, thinking about nature, environment, water, about animals, forests, everything has to be heavily incorporated in the in our curriculum.
Yes, absolutely. And also another thing is that we sometimes tend to look at it as us being the higher power, that we are saving the world. We're not saving the world. We're just saving ourselves.
We are very
We're
small,
nothing.
very significant. And when we say, okay, we need to fix climate change, I mean, like,
The only thing we can do is maybe reduce what we're doing or like do it a little bit more mindfully and hope for the best. That's pretty much.
yeah, uh, there are so many epochs which have come and gone. And maybe when dinosaurs were there, they also must be thinking, oh, we are the greatest and the best. We are thriving. But within few years, I think they were gone. Right?
Yeah, and they didn't even know it, right? There was
Exactly.
literally nothing that they could have done, even if they had known.
In spite of all our technological things, we think that we can control anything and everything, but that's not the case.
Yes. Okay, so a little bit of a fun question. If you had a playlist for the work that you do, what would your top track be? Like, what is that one song that you just listen to and it gets you, up and going?
One song. One song which I always like is "रुक जाना नहीं तू कहीं हार के कांटों से चल के मिले ये साए बाहर के."
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so last question, really. Although you have kind of answered it in different ways, but still, if you had to just do a quick recap, what advice would you give someone else who's thinking about making a similar shift, a similar transition from just a cushy but boring sort of going nowhere kind of corporate job to working in the impact sector where every day is something crazy, something new?
I would say is that take informed decisions, right? One. Second is that do a lot of reading, lot of introspection. Find your ikigai. If you are able to find and if you follow the ikigai, then basically your job becomes play. Your stress becomes enjoyment, and your gains would be not only physical, but they'll be much more psychological and spiritual in nature. And that's where, as I said, basically we are not born cockroaches, but we are made to be in the rat race and become cockroaches. So the choice is ours. Make that choice, stick with the choice, live with the choice, and make sure that the choice you have made becomes your destiny.
Ruk jana nahi.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Beautiful advice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rahul. It has been an absolute pleasure learning about your journey and your work. And we look forward to your company doing really, really well in the coming future. The next 10 years, may they be just filled with lots and lots of water for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And all the best to you as well.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye. Cheers.
What an inspiring chat with Rahul Bakare. Full of insights, courage, and real lessons for anyone thinking about making the sustainability shift. Thank you, Rahul, for sharing your journey and showing us what it takes to build a purpose-driven career. And to everyone watching the Impact Shift series by Green Pistachio, stay tuned for our next episode where we have yet another guest who's shifted from corporate to impact. Till then, keep thinking green, keep living mindfully, and remember, sustainability isn't a trend, it's the way forward.